We need to grow. Give us
I don't know.
We don't need to grow, but if growth is the natural thing that.
Okay, we decided we need to grow.
If we need to grow,
Whether it's right or wrong for us.
A lot of conversations, Mayor.
Too many people.
All right, I'm going to call order here.
Can we pause for a regroup? Can I let this video play?
Yeah, let's
Are you
Call.
good, Jeff? Do I have audio?
We can give it a shot.
No.
No?
I know, but I promise it's
Just a
okay. I
minute.
wouldn't play it if I thought I was gonna get lynched walking out here. There's some relevance to the questions that are being asked. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be flippant, I'm just trying to, you're asking the question, but there's not
Send me the
a
link.
deference that we're on the
Play it?
same page.
Oh.
There's a lot of snarky comments that I can tell some folks are thinking they're whispering softer than they are. We're not here to make enemies. We're also not here to shove anything down your throat. We're just here to share information. Some of it we've generated on our own, working through a lot of research. Some of the snarky comments that clearly are making their way to the front that we can hear. I don't know, it just doesn't seem like we're being very good Christians, so I'm hoping folks can kind of pause. No, seriously, he's waiting to see what kind of lie he can come up with. And I looked over my shoulder and some of you looked with a grin, so you know you heard it too. It's just not cool.
Just keep in mind, it does feel like shoving.
Yeah, we're not here to shove. Listen, we're not here to shove. We're just here to present
The other
information.
thing is people came here to have an open discussion with the city council, and then the
And we're
whole
spending
meeting
all our
is taken
time
up
with
by
this.
people from Cache Valley telling us that's wrong.
And we
That's
got
why
20
people are
minutes
frustrated, because we
Okay.
waste meeting after meeting after meeting, and there's so many people that quit coming because they spend 2 hours coming and they don't even get to ask the question they wanna ask. So we come to a meeting saying we get to ask questions, and they bring you in here to tell us all the stuff that isn't, we just took a whole, arrange for our kids, arrange for our things to do this, and we're not allowed to do that, and that's why people are angry, because this is like the 10th time this has happened. And it's not saying against you,
Appreciate that, but
just
it's our
saying,
first time, and this isn't a very good walking away feeling for your guests.
okay, but you're coming into a city that you don't live in and you don't understand what we're.
How about a
frustrated about.
Saturday?
all right, let's regroup here. All right, and we take a couple of questions. No, I'm not putting anybody off. I'm just saying, let's regroup, let's take a few questions, and then let's let these gentlemen finish their presentation, and we'll have some time for questions and answers. So, go ahead.
Well, I don't know that anybody knows me very well or not. I'm hardly ever here in town. My name is Chris Danvers. I live on David Drive. My family and I have lived there for about 4 years. And I'm actually part of the problem of the urban sprawl. I came here, I'm a transplant, and I was looking for a place where my family could grow in a nice small town like Fremont. And I want to keep it that way just like all of you. I want to tell you guys and you, the council, that there are several things that I've experienced while I am here and not out traveling for my actual job. When I'm here, I have to earn extra money because of how expensive it's starting to get. I have to do things like Uber and substitute teaching. And so I get to see in my time when I'm not traveling what the schools are like and what the rest of this valley, all the way to the very bottom side of it, looks like now. And I'll tell you, and I'm not just, I actually have some ideas as well as information, because I want to give ideas as well. I don't think anybody should just come and tell the problems and without any ideas. So what I've seen in the southern half of this valley
Go past that one.
is massive urban sprawl where they have not been able to keep up with the infrastructure. The roads are massively compact around these suburban neighborhoods that are just flying up like weeds. And it is scary, and it's not what I want to see on this side of the valley, up here on the north side. If it does, I'm gonna pick up my family and I'm gonna leave, because this isn't what I came here for. But some ideas for all of you guys that might help is Tremonton it appears to have been built for the new families in Tremont proper. There's a whole lot of really small homes in Tremont proper. It was planned out very well. There's sidewalks, there's streets, there's main roads. It looks amazing. Now, there's a lot of run-down homes in Tremont in that same area. You know, the city council could give incentives to builders and first-time home buyers to go in and buy one of these old homes in Tremont proper and renovate it. Make it pretty again. Make Old Town look new. You don't have to go out and build all of these big fancy neighborhoods with $400,000 and $500,000 homes. You can rebuild what we already have as part of it. Where there's a guy that I listen to, he says, show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome. If these guys give the right incentives to the people, then they will have the right outcomes coming into the town that we all want. If you, all of you, can come up with all of the incentives that you can think of, tell these guys so that they know what, not only what we want, but maybe a way in how to get it. The other thing, and I've talked to a couple of you guys up here before, is as far as the schools go, city council's got to stop passing the buck saying it's the school's problem with this or our problem is this. You guys need to start working with the school
I
board
agree with that.
and showing leadership and not just being a seal of approval on everything that comes across city council. I don't care if I'm in South Korea, which I was for 3 months. I still watched every single city council on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that I'm the only one who commented on every one of them, in YouTube. So you guys don't have to be here to know what's going on. It's all over the place. You can find it. And then when you do, start commenting on it. Start sending them emails. Do something. Let them know that you're mad, not just in these meetings, but hound them. They can't go into Kent's without getting hounded. I know it. Okay?
Thank you.
So thank you for your time.
Thanks, John. Thank you, Mr. Denny. Yeah, Jed.
What I'm gonna say is this, everybody here probably knows growth is absolutely inevitable. It's gonna happen. Doesn't matter what you say, think, or do, it's going to happen. But this big issue is, you guys never listen to what these people say. And it's flat out, you don't listen. And I hate to say that.
Are you generalizing, or do you feel that way about all of us?
I feel like that about all of you, and I've known everybody up there for a long time. Blair, Wes, we've worked together.
So can I address that?
Sure.
Having served 12 years as an elected and appointed official, no matter how these gentlemen vote, there are always people that are happy with how they vote. There's always people that are unhappy.
Can I actually
Can't please everybody.
Can I actually say something about that? Because I'm the new guy here, right? I sincerely want to know your opinions. And this town hall is elective. We actually don't even have to be here tonight. So that's actually a really weird thing to hear in the very meeting where the intention of what we're doing here tonight. Now, I actually personally feel the format could be changed of coming and giving you information that skewed one way. But so that is personal feedback that I think, but the information that they're giving us is incredibly relevant and important, and I just hope that we can put it on the shelf where it belongs. But I personally feel, this is Bo Lewis, the new guy. I don't blame a lot of city council members for not listening a lot. Our hearts are in the right spot, and we're doing our absolute best to represent the constituents of a place that we love and we call home. And our kids are going to go to the same schools, and I want to see that sidewalk up on that, that's important to me. That's why I'm away from my kids again tonight. On a night we don't have to be here, but we chose to be so we could unify ourselves. So I'm just calling out us. I don't care if I get reelected. To be honest, I'm only doing it because I feel obligated, and I've been asked to. I think in Tremont, we are struggling with unity. And it's both city council and it's us. It's all of us together.
So
And I want to unify that. There's unity here.
These people walk out of here, I stand out here and listen to them all the time, and they walk out of here every week upset because nobody listened. They voted against everything these people want, every time.
what you tell me what I didn't listen to. Name something. No, name it. Because
Everything they want.
you got your group, these guys got their group, and we're trying to get everybody's group. And it's hard. It's really hard.
Say
We don't all feel that way.
that I've started this like it's getting to be almost a year ago, and I've seen a huge change in city council being willing. Not that they didn't listen before, but I feel like, I will say, and I've been trying to spread this word, they're listening, they're trying. I feel like they're really trying. I feel like there's some changes in the city administration, but we could change this. I feel like this format tonight is discouraging when you take time to come to a meeting thinking it's an open format, and then which no, all due respect to you, I just like that wasn't what we came for, and we want to just have a dialogue about Tremont and not Cache County or, that kind of thing. That was what we were told would happen. But I just want to thank the city council because in my opinion, I feel like I've been bombarding them with a million conversations, and those 4 men are listening to us, and they're really trying to be more approachable to residents. I feel like that's been my experience.
Brandon?
Yeah, I just wonder if we're not really addressing the real issue. I'm Brandon Bond. I'm new too. I've been here about 7 years. I'm actually running for city council. This is not a plug to vote for me. In fact, I think you should vote for Bo. And he objects. I think he'd be great. But I think the real challenge and question here is, well, who decides what affordable housing is? And I think that sometimes we all feel like we're being bamboozled because if you go to realestate.com right now, you're going to see a townhome on there for $315,000. You're also going to see a house that was just listed yesterday that's 980 square feet, and it's $285,000. You've got the houses in Matheson and all the other places, and I don't know what it really means to have affordable housing. So I think that we're all kind of concerned with what that means, because what is considered affordable? My children that have just recently got married, they can't afford that. And I just don't want to be bamboozled into bringing in this certain type of housing that really isn't affordable. And so I think that we're all just trying to say the same thing. And it's like, what really is the right thing to do? Because what has been happening doesn't feel like it's been the right thing to do. That's kind of where I stand. Vote for Bob.
So,
I second that.
the term affordable housing kind of has a stereotype. Everybody thinks it's low income, it's technically over that quarter of the city, and high crime and all this. Here's what happens. I said earlier, we have a shortage of housing across all socioeconomic areas. And I'll tell you what happens. We have to build middle income housing too. Because if middle income housing isn't built, the families bid the prices of those houses up. So now you got a new family comes in and says, I love this neighborhood, but man, the prices are just dying on. We can't afford to live here. So they go down market, and now they take the housing that we're calling affordable housing and drive the pricing of, rent for apartments, those 2-bedroom starter homes. those prices get bid up too. Because we're not building enough middle income housing, you know, we're driving the price of the.
Yeah, but there's more to it. Okay, I don't know, do you know Darlene and Reed North? Does anybody know them?
Yeah.
Okay, I looked at their taxes just today, because their son next door is selling their house, Brad. The Norrs, I could see they paid just at $2,000 in property taxes this year. But Brad, who rents his house, he's required to pay $4,000 in property taxes, because he doesn't physically live in the house.
There's not a primary residence.
Right, but here's the question. Does the state of Utah really want to promote affordable housing? Because you've got an investor, the owner of the house, who's taking on the risk, they bought the house, but yet they've raised his property taxes double because he's not living there. Now, is he gonna eat that, or is he gonna pass that on to the renter? He's gonna pass it, most people would, I wouldn't. He's gonna pass that on, and does the state really care? Because those types of shenanigans, they don't play well.
The property owner.
And again, I'm not directing it
No,
towards
I
you, I'm
get it.
sorry.
We're having a,
I just get
we're having
riled
an
up.
economic fight tonight.
He's from the South.
I think it's great. You make a great point, and the reality is that population of, you know, owners that have rental property is a really small segment of the population.
It's not 27% of the buyers in the state of Utah are investors. That's a high number,
Okay, you know why they are?
because they have cash.
Because the rental rates are high. Why are the rental rates high?
So,
Has a
Let's-
question right there.
Let's,
I am, but
I think his hat, it's a MAGA hat. His hat's great. You like that? Yes, sir.
make alfalfa great again.
this meeting, copies of Utah code sent to the mayor and the council. That portion deals with drainage districts and tile lines. I hope you all received a copy and looked at it. Does anybody know that there are tile lines in that property that you're planning on to develop? And what impact development would have on those tile lines?
Yeah.
I haven't heard anybody saying about it. Just needs to be considered.
I do know a little bit about that from a previous life as a county extension agent. I know that those tile lines, there was a study, or they mapped a lot of those tile lines 10 or 15 years ago. And the Farm Service Agency has those, my understanding is the Farm Agency has those maps that NRCS went out and did. So that's my understanding, is that they've got those maps, and the developer, and as they go in and develop this or any property that's was in agriculture before it's developed, they should know where those tile lines are. So I mean, we don't want to sever them. We can't sever them, because that'll stop the flow, and we'll go back to the way it was at the turn of the previous century. And so I just know that study had been done, and that information is out there in your area and a lot of the other areas around.
Chris Marcus brought up the same concern in this room a couple of meetings ago.
Go ahead.
Okay, do you have any other question?
How do you propose dealing with the tile line?
How do we propose the developers having those tile?
How are you going to develop over that property that has tile lines?
They'd have to move that, they'd have to redirect those lines so they keep flowing.
Move them out of the area is what you're saying.
Well, if they build a house over the top of a tile line, that tile line is going to have to be moved so that the flow, so the water keeps flowing. That was the idea back in the day. That was the whole idea by going and doing that survey.
Hopefully that will happen. I don't know this as a fact. That's just hearsay. But you know the little subdivision there, right behind Butters Tractors?
Yes,
That anytime there's a heavy runoff,
I know
that floods.
I know that well.
And, you know, the rumor was was that it was because the developer, stopped the tile line. He built over the tile lines and the tile lines, you know,
Well, it's-
continue. I don't know. if that's
And a lot
concern.
and a lot of that was the surface flow, as that water was, as the snow was melting, and it just naturally wanted to go through that property right there, right through that one house, right through the yard of that one house, and into the, and we did increase the line, the pipeline, the storm drain lines in that area, and I don't know that we've seen a really bad year like that one year. But we'll expect, it'll come back, we'll have another one. But that line was improved.
That's hopefully they'll, you know, that.
But it's still going to go right down that 1 yard. I know exactly where you're talking. Yeah.
Can I ask one or make one more comment that I think is really important just for the context, all of us here. The last thing we want to be doing on a Monday night is sitting down at the city building trying to figure out how we're going to grow slow, you know? But happy to be here and be with you guys because of how much we care. And also Sean and John, like, thank you for coming. I've met with Sean a lot, and Sean is a wealth of knowledge when it comes to just stats and data and information from the state level. He's an incredible resource that I've been leaning on, and because I feel like data is really important and information. One of the things that I rely on a lot for city council is data and information so that we can make an educated decision. Because it's been stated, you know, we'll go to the grocery store, and in that trip, I'm told you do not do this, and in the same trip, I'm told you do this or else, right? So I walk out like, oh crap, now I'm gonna be a bad guy no matter what I do when I leave here,
Is Bobby
right?
doing that too?
And poor Bobby's taking the brunt of it now. He gets chewed out for my actions. But realistically, you know, and there's a picture I saw of, and I've shared this before. It was Harry or Henry or whichever one of those guys in the palace, and from the side there's a picture, and he's like this, and it looks like he's flipping someone off. And then from the front, he's going like this. He's asking them for 3 people in the taxi. And what I've noticed is that a lot of times data for me, it might be presented to me like this, and then the more questions I ask, it ends up being like this, and I'm like, oh, there wasn't ill intent there. So in my mind, that's what tonight's meeting was about, was getting everybody in a room where we could say, okay, what is the picture we're looking at? So far, what I've seen, I do not like this thing. This looks terrible, you know, but from the front, is there some stats? And so I think that was the intention of these guys presenting those stats. So I do thank you for being here and for giving us that information. So, but I also can see how it came off as we're here to push an agenda. I don't think that was the mayor's intention either. So anyway, I just wanted to throw
Well,
that.
we've been here for an hour, exactly, almost.
I've been up for
And
20
so,
minutes. Can I have my say?
yes,
I've been
yes.
standing for 20 minutes.
Okay, yeah, we don't want you to,
My name is Bonnie Ellis, and I live in Fremont Farms.
okay.
And I've been to these meetings from day one. I totally have trust in at least a couple, 3 or 4, of council members. So I don't agree with the statement that you're not listening. However, I have seen, because I've been in all these meetings, I have seen a little bit of deceit.
A little bit of what?
Deceit. I don't think you're getting all of the information, and I just want to give you a couple examples. Okay, number one, I was told that Freeman Farms was totally happy with the change after the vote was made. Freeman Farms, and I can't speak for everybody in Freeman Farms, but I can speak for about 7 of them. They were not happy
Which
about the
change are you
changes
referring to?
about the getting put into Tremont
Annexed, okay.
annexation. They were happy because we finally got in their head that we were not going to pay the $17,000 impact fee because we had already been there. So that turned into they were all happy. Another example, I was in the meeting last week with the Planning Commission, and they were trying to make a decision. And one of the members of the Planning Commission asked, because they were talking about the developer and his plans and what was going on there. And he was asked, did this developer buy this land all at once? The people that knew the answer to that chose not to answer. I raised my hand, asked if I could answer it, and I was told no. The answer is no, he did not buy it all at once. He bought one small section behind Freeman Farms, and then as time went on, he bought more, and those people that are now involved didn't even get the chance to vote on it. A third example, and then I'm done. Third example is I had one problem with my house that I was very concerned about. Because and it might seem little to someone else, but I'm on a fixed income. I built my forever home. I don't plan on moving. My address is cemented in my house, 2 different places. I asked in these meetings 4 different times, who's gonna pay for this? And I was told, and a lot of people here were there, I was told it will be paid for by the developer. The developer was asked that in a meeting. He was there and he said, I didn't agree to that. The person that told me that would happen didn't say a word. I went up to him after the meeting because I didn't want to embarrass him in front of people and said, you told me 3 times that was going to be taken care of. And all he could do was shake his head yes. So I just think that every member that's involved in this isn't getting the information up front when they are the ones that have the information to share.
Okay. Thank you. We've been here, let's go ahead and Joan, we're going to let the public sort of, do you have a little presentation, a little part that you can, a video that I think you were talking about?
For the sake of time and attention, I think we'll forego it.
Yeah, I think that it might be good to,
I
let's,
would like to make a couple comments though.
okay, let's turn the time, let you have the floor.
If I go off script and I don't use the slideshow? Or did you really care about our
So
slideshow?
after the reboot, he's having trouble
Yeah, I
getting
don't think-
connected back to the
Okay,
slideshow.
okay.
What was that?
I was just saying, after the reboot,
Do you want me to get back into it? Because I think he was.
We're running on
Yeah, you
the
were
think he's
having
having
trouble
power,
getting
the
back to
power's
the
out, so.
I good. What was that, Blair?
We're running on emergency power, that generator's running,
Yeah, I got it. I can pull it up.
Okay, well,
but
I think they're looking for us to wrap it up a little bit.
okay.
Yeah, let's, so we can give some time
Give
to
the top
the,
3 recommendations? Or does it not matter at this point? You tell me,
It
sir.
may not matter, but it's good for
Yeah.
information.
I want to give I want to give people a chance to talk.
So John, do you mind just hitting on this real quick and then?
I would love to get a copy of these slides though.
I'm
Just
happy to give
all
them
the
to anybody
context
in
is there,
So
right?
one of the points in our report that hit home for a lot of cities, and after we did our presentation, is a public education campaign. In fact, the Property Rights Ombudsman's Office gave us money, grant money, to do social media videos and put them on social media. $40,000. So that had a lot of impact to our residents in all of our cities in Cache Valley, is an education program. You know, let everybody get the opportunity to speak. Hold town hall meetings. You know, if there's a big issue, bring a subject matter expert in, you know, whatever that is. Bring in your city attorney or something, you know, answer some legal questions, or your city engineer. You know, ask the questions about roads and infrastructure and sidewalk. Because there's a lot of unanswered questions. And you guys can ask one question, but you got 15 other questions about how is the development going to impact, you know, my property and my home, and by the way, who's going to pay for it? So I hear a lot of those questions here, and you know, you get one slice of information tonight in a short period of time. An education program will go a long way. Trust me, I mean, it'll help these guys gain your respect to the extent that they can. It will make a big difference. In fact, I'll be happy to come out here to Tremont, maybe Sean will as well. You know, you can pick my brains out, you know, I'll give you honest answers or whatever. I'd be happy to do that. We've done that for other cities as well. But, you know, it's about education. At the end of the day, everybody here is going to say, we have a problem we need to figure out how to solve. The best thing to do is get everybody's questions answered, get as much information out, and then let's say as a community, let's put our heads together, let's figure out how to solve this problem. You know, do we want to accomplish this? Yes. So now the challenge is how do we do it? You know, that's my suggestion, you know, and I'll close with that. We coordinated with the county and the city. We managed to get grant money so the county can coordinate with cities, so cities connect. City growth is planned for, and we coordinated with the county, so it's worked well. John.
Thank you, John.
Well, first of all, thank you. I really do appreciate everybody showing up. Like John, I know what it's like to be these guys behind us. And tonight's candor and some of the tension reminds me of a saying I heard years ago. I hope you'll forgive the directness and what it implies. In politics, friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. And I think it was implied here from some things that Bo and Blair said that, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, there's going to be people that you did hear, that you did listen to, you just voted differently. Doesn't mean you didn't hear the ones that didn't get their way, though that may be how they unfortunately take it when they leave that conversation. Again, we weren't here tonight to shove anything down anybody's throats, and I'm sorry if that's the tone that it came across with. I apologize not only to you, I apologize to you guys, because you know that's not what our intention was, and it's not what you asked us to do. So for that, I apologize to your city leaders, and I apologize. If you feel like tonight's information was a waste of your time or offended you, I'll own it because I put together the slide deck. So my apologies to you. I'll man up to that. Why I'm passionate about this, though, and what Bo alluded to, is my specialty is more economic development. I started a business many years ago. I had a successful business for 25 years. I was an honorary business owner, and I slipped into government because I was tired of government bureaucrats telling me what to do. People who had never spent a day in my job. My name, ma'am, is Shawn Milne. ShawnMilne. Shawn Milne.
I was trying to get that same legislation.
Oh, in politics, friends come and go, but enemies accumulate. The day you are no longer the candidate and you're successful is the day that your short wit starts to burn. And it's been my casual observation, having worked for a lot of individuals in elected office, that anywhere from as little as 2 or 3 months to a year, people that supported you with a campaign sign are going to hate your guts. That's not universal, but I've noticed it, and it's super sad. So this room is no different than any other community that we've given these kind of presentations to. And that's kind of where I want to focus this little part that I'm going to go off script. Utah is experiencing a lot of tension because Utah is a really blessed place. I love that you outed yourself as a transplant, both of you, because you're proof that Tremont is doing it right. Developers will tell these guys all day long that they're crooks because impact fees are a penalty, a barrier of entry. There are all sorts of reasons why these guys are crooks and trying to be, to stall growth. They're just trying to make it more expensive. Here, folks like we are saying housing's too expensive. The median listing price a year ago here in Box Elder County, median listing price was $460,000. You're right, sir, that's not affordable, and we all know it. The median sale price a year ago was $422,000. Now, if you follow the old adage, and this is where the definition of affordable becomes pretty objective, it's not going to be down to bureaucrats like we are now, or your elected officials trying to shove something down your throat or not. It's not realtors that are present in the room or developers. Objectively, the average has been 3 times your annual household income is what you can afford for a mortgage. So if you made $100,000 per household, generally speaking, what would be affordable, because it's traditional in the banking institution, what they lend on is a $300,000 home. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I didn't make anywhere close to $100,000 when I was 22, 25, trying to start a family. Even with inflation, most of us know that our kids and grandkids aren't gonna make $100,000 per household. Even if they're a dual income earning household and they're both college educated, most of them are not making $50,000 right off the bat. Now, to be fair, when I started off, I was one of those people that so often get demonized in these kind of meetings. My single mom was one of those people, a single income earning household, trying to make it. Now, whether that's through divorce or bad decisions, I know some of you care because you're going to imply for your own household what that means about how you want those kids to play with your kids or not. I mean, we all socially know that's there. But the reality of it is my single mom wasn't a bad person. But to hear some city councils in the state of Utah hear from members of the public say, I don't want those people living here, that's kind of messed up. Not everybody is inherently bad. I know that's not what everybody here in the room is saying, but if you're a young kid just starting off, I lived in an apartment. I lived in a room for rent house. I'll bet if I asked by a show of hands, but don't want to call anybody out, some of you probably did too, and you were probably good to those people. You were those people by place where you lived, apartment, condo, but you weren't one of those people that people like you would be worried about. And so that's all I'm going to ask, that we are here to kind of talk about the data. We have the data to show those kind of data points. Now you talk about a concentration of low socioeconomic status. Yeah, there's reason to be concerned. But just inherently condos, townhomes, apartments, density does not equal crime. Most of the time, and again, a generalization, most of the time density is not going to have a higher crime rate than anywhere else. You just see more of the residences outside your kitchen window than if they're all, 1 acre lots. You're going to see fewer outside. Now again, socioeconomics aside, because that is a relative element. If you have a bunch of the projects quantifiably to the proportion of the population, you're going to probably see some. So I'm going to come back to the wages and kind of try to wrap it up there. If you made $100,000 a year and $300,000, that would be objectively, traditionally speaking, the affordable house. A year ago at $422,000, that's not affordable. Anybody here know who the brand De Beers is? Some of the ladies probably know this better than most men. De Beers, contrary to what it sounds like, it's not alcohol. It's diamonds. Who here grew up thinking diamonds were rare? I did. Diamonds are not rare. As a matter of fact, they're so commonplace, we make them on the tip of any, Harbor Freight, drill bit that you can get that's dirt cheap. But De Beers did consolidate the market, and they did vertical integration. They bought up diamond mines, and they consolidated distribution. They created scarcity in the market so they could inflate their price. Now that's not what developers are doing, and it's not what cities are intending to do. But today, we regulate housing construction differently than we did in the post-World War II era. Just think about it. For anybody that's old enough to remember post-World War II, or those of you that were the generation of that greatest generation, and you remember small little Main Street before the interstate came through towns. Think about how many of those Main Street areas had live and work right in the same spot. Think about the comment that was made earlier, I think by John, of the 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house. And unfortunately, we don't allow for that zoning a lot in the state of Utah and other places in the Intermountain West today. It's not inherently bad, but if we want to increase the amount of available inventory, which is the only way to increase the supply, decrease the price, I'm a landlord. I will totally own up. I'm a landlord. I have just a couple of residences. They're single-family detached, and that's part of my retirement strategy. I'm not Blackstone. I'm not one of those big mega institutions, but I'm looking forward to that, just like some people own stock. And that's how I'm going to pay for my retirement for me and my family one day. My rent that I can charge someone will go down the lower a house price is. If I was selfishly motivated by capitalism, I'd be telling you restrict supply, because it'd be good for my retirement. That's not the reality, though. I think you said, sir, that you would charge it, or you would pass through the property taxes just because you could. I'll admit I'm one of those that I want my tenant to cover my costs, because I'm looking at it that way. And we have two different ways of going about it, and both of us are good people. And We just have to think about housing inventory kind of the same way. And so economic development, we typically are trying to increase the median wage, increase the quality of life for our kids and grandkids. Because most of us here in the room, we're probably living better than our grandparents did. Our grandparents probably didn't have to trek across the plains in a covered wagon where there was no road. So successively, we usually end up better. But unfortunately, the demographics look for Generation Alpha, which are those that are 20 years and younger. For the first time, their life expectancy is expected to drop, and they're expected to have a lower quality of life than most of us today. And part of it is because we've sold them a bill of goods. Those of us mostly in the room, I see some young faces, but for the rest that now I feel like I can't make eye contact because I just said some people are old, but we sold them a bill of goods because we told them if they go to school and get good grades, they'll get into a good university. They get good grades at university, they'll get a good paying job, and they'll have access to the American dream of homeownership. Because for most of us, that is the single largest investment that we have. And now I'm going to close with this. Communities have the same need for diversification of their investment strategy that we as individuals do. Anybody here old enough to remember Enron? What a great investment that was. There are a lot of employees of Enron who their complete retirement was nothing but Enron stock. It was a super sad day for them when that company went belly up. The next worst scenario, but slightly better, is you invest in just one industry. But we all know that if anybody in here is a financial planner, I hope that you'll validate this, but the standard is that, at different times of your life, you invest differently in risk. A little bit more in stocks when you're younger, definitely more heavily in bonds when you're older. And so I say that to make this comparison to Tremont. Folks like these gentlemen that stood up and made themselves a target as newbies and transplants that have ruined this place because of the growth. They moved here because you are awesome. They moved here because they wanted a piece of what you've built. Thankfully, they paid impact fees so that cost didn't have to be yours to bear. But you'll have the same opportunities if you treat the newbies, no matter how voluminous or not they are, if you'll diversify your economy. You build nothing but 1 acre lots with single family homes, you're gonna set yourself up for really high taxes in 20 to 30 years. How many people, I won't ask a loaded question. In the state of Utah, and it was alluded to with the property tax, in the state of Utah, the real estate industry was very, very successful. And decades ago, they rightfully made the case that homeownership is a really important part to building up personal household net worth. And so they got an exemption for anybody that owns their home and it's a primary residence. You're only paying taxes on 55% of your home's value, meaning you're getting a 45% coupon. That's why somebody who owns a second or a third, whether it be investment, short-term rental up in Bear Lake or Moab, doesn't matter. If you own more than your primary residence, you're going to be paying full property tax on that at 100% valuation. I bring that up because businesses don't get any of that discount. Our school districts, our roads, our parks and rec, they're good because of businesses, because they're paying 100% of the taxes on that $1 million property, where if you own a $1 million home and it's your home, it's your primary residence, you're only paying taxes on $550,000. So we need to look at this in a multifaceted way. I'm sorry, I realize I kind of rambled and tried to connect a couple dots there, but that's how complex this is.
Yeah, let's,
So, council members and mayor, I
we
really
appreciate,
appreciate you giving us the time tonight.
we appreciate your time.
Available for any questions.
Yeah, and so let's, we appreciate you guys coming all the way over here and spending some time with us and educating us, and thank you very much. We want to take I don't know how much we can well bear, but we can, let's go ahead and let's take questions, and we'll have for the council let me just finish here and then I'll, let's take questions for the council for Jeff and for Bill and Sean, and we'll try to answer those questions. We'll try to keep things going until about 9 o'clock, and then we'll let's see if we can get through this in about 40 minutes. And if we need a little more time, we'll take more time. But yeah, go ahead. And if you can, to make this work, let's have you come up and then, or at least stand so everybody can hear
I
you.
was gonna ask if he could put it on the Facebook page, because I would like to see the whole presentation. I have to sneak out, but I would like to see it, and I would like to get that data.
Yeah, I think it was recorded, and so it's on YouTube, but keep in mind that we did lose power, so I'm not sure exactly.
Saying about the presentation.
Yeah, we can put that on we'll put that on our website.
That was my question and concern, because I have to sneak out, but
Yeah.
I did want to see all of it.
We'll put that on our website. Yes.
Is it worth, I wonder, I appreciate you guys coming over and presenting your.
By the way, can people hear, or do we need to have you come up?
We're good.
Okay, good enough.
But I wonder, is it worth it, maybe putting together a task force, because I think that's great information, what you said about all the different areas and experts in those. Is it worth putting together, Tremont to put together a task force in a way of different representation of groups to help make those decisions and, you know.
Can you give me your name?
Jamie Crowther.
Jamie Crowther?
Because I like that idea of public education, because you hear something or you read something and you come and say, well, I heard this, which might not necessarily be true according to the city or what you can and can't do. So, because there's a lot of public information and a lot of public education that I think does need to happen, because you think one thing in your head, well, I heard this or I was told that. Well, they might not have had the right to even tell you that, you know, and so I think public education is really important. But I wonder if a task force gathering experts in different areas and maybe including these data experts could be beneficial in making future decisions.
Would you, when you get a chance, come up and talk to us afterward and we can get some information from you on that? Thank you.
And one
First volunteer.
Kaya is leading the charge in putting together public awareness content. And so she called me the other day saying, hey, what day and time? And we're going to start doing that when there's an issue that's coming and we know that information could change the way, you know, just, hey, this is really what the data is. And so we're going to be doing that as much as possible and filming those and putting them on the Facebook page. So I hope that helps.
Oh, will you get you'll get with us? Okay. That'll be great. Thank you.
And with that said, if there's topics that we know are common that need to be understood, we want to know what they are so that we can get the information out there and be as transparent as possible. And if the direction that as a city council we're heading in is the wrong direction, by all means, you're gonna have an opinion after. If it still looks that way, we need to know that, right? So.
Yes, sir.
This will be directed to you guys. Speaking of statistics, so I hear all the time about the development that we need, that it's for the children. We got to do it for our kids. I don't like it when people use my kids against me to get what they want. So, but I hear it from several people using that our kids aren't going to have be able to afford houses here in Tremont. Nobody knows if my kids are going to live in Tremont, let alone Utah. I know plenty of people who have moved completely out. All their kids have moved away from Utah, certainly Tremont. So I don't buy that, and I don't necessarily buy that all of the growth or the majority of the growth is from childbirth when our rates are dropping. I know over the last 20 years ago the rate was like 17 to 20%, and now it's down to 12, 13 over the last 10. So I know that's dropping, and I don't have all those stats, so I don't know for sure. But what I have really seen over the last 10 years, especially in our neighborhood, is a lot of influx from out of state, people buying those homes. It's not the kids that are jacking the prices up of our homes, but I saw countless people in my neighborhood sold their home in a day. Went listed, sold it in a day, and sight unseen, people didn't even look at the house, they just saw a picture and were like, I want that house. And many of them bought that house for over the asking price, quite a few. And I've heard this throughout the state from people. I travel throughout the state as a sales rep, and so I hear these stories of people. And so that's why I'm curious, do you have numbers of the influx of people coming from out of state? Because I know we got them for people being born, but do we have them from out of state that you can share?
Sean can answer. I can tell you about it. In Cache County, 85% of the growth is what I call organic growth. It's families having kids. And 15% is from elsewhere. And I'll tell you what, from my personal experience, people I've met who've moved into our city and bought a home, paid top price for it, they grew up here. They went to school here in Utah. They said this is a promised land. You know, their goal was always to come back to Utah.
I get it.
So they did, and they brought their family with them.
I'm needing more solid numbers, because my experience is people out of state that are moving in and buying this home sight unseen. If you live in Ogden, you're gonna come look at the house. But if you live in California or Washington, you're just trying to escape the madness, you're gonna buy the house as soon as you can. So I'm curious about those numbers. I don't wanna hear about, what happened in Cache Valley. I just wanna know if you have numbers like that of an influx from out of the state.
Kim Gart.
And are those numbers of the growth from children, are they the ones buying houses, or are they just a growth because they've been born? Those are numbers.
What's the point? What can you do about it if the guy from California comes in and buys a house? What could we do about
It's
it?
not as if you can't buy this house. I keep hearing it's for the children, and I heard the word deceit over here, and that's what I like to get away from. If I'm hearing something that sounds like it may be a ploy to get me to do something just because of the way they said something, a lot of stats can be twisted. And so I want the full truth, 100% truth. Is it 100% correct what you're saying to me that the growth is from children wanting to buy a house? I want the truth. But if you're hiding something else and not giving me all the numbers, that's where I have a problem. It's not gonna change whether that person buys the house, but it will let me see you're a deceitful human. So I'm not gonna trust what you have to say.
Yeah, that goes both ways.
Yeah.
Mr. Denvers?
So may I address it?
Yes.
So in 5 to 10 years, it's expected that Box Elder County will start to see a net migration inward. But it'll be from Utah, it's not California, it's Colorado, or somewhere else in the United States. As far as the population increase, the majority comes from. For a while, Box Elder County is still expected to have more growth internally from our own offspring. But in 5 to 10 years, it is expected that the majority of the growth will be from folks Salt Lake, further north, migrating north. This is an important differentiation because to your point about, I don't want to hear about Cache County. John's right, that the numbers are different for Cache. Cache trends a little younger by its median age, which is somewhat intuitive. If you've got that many 17,000 resident in-community students at USU, and by golly, they really like it and they find their crush and settle down, there are more younger families there. So there are some differences even across the county line. One of the slides that I didn't show when I got off script was at the end of March, Deseret News reported that a third of Utahns, particularly under the age of 35, have considered in the past 12 months moving from the state of Utah. Now, sir, I can't interpret intent by that kind of a survey because some parents want their kids to move far away. Most generally do not. They want to see grandbabies. They don't maybe have a lot of discretionary income to travel far in order to be there for those life-changing moments that your children will go through. And if they all moved, if you had 5 kids and they all moved as adults to the same city, you could coordinate your travel. But if they all end up dispersing throughout the nation, it's pretty expensive to be a good grandparent. So I can't interpret intent or inject it, but if a third of our kids move, and that's if, because we all know that just because it says a third of them have contemplated it, doesn't mean they will. But if a lot of them did, we're terrible investors because during our income earning age years of our life, we've paid anywhere from 60 to 80% of our property taxes to educate kids, K through the age of 25 and coming out of university. So we pay for them to go to school only for when they become income earning themselves, and we want them to be paying into our Social Security. Those smart kids will say, I don't have access to the same American dream here. I'll move to Missouri or Oklahoma. Now, there's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts, and we can play that game all night about what. one industry, whether they can work remotely. But then we've literally output our profitability, our offspring, somewhere else, and businesses will not come here. Businesses don't invest in shrinking markets, they invest in growing ones. So there's so much that we can go down a rabbit hole, but I'm not gonna blow smoke. Our demographics will be a little bit different, and who knows what next big employer comes to town or, you know, goes right over the county line into West Weber, and our school district gets all the cost side of the balance sheet, having to educate their kids, but they go and get a good paying job right over the county line and make that commercial enterprise really profitable that West Weber and Far West gets the property taxes for. Like, that's the worst kind of scenario, actually, because it's close enough to home, but we just made another community more profitable.
Okay, let's move on here. We've got, we're good, Mr. Denvers.
I'm gonna try and make this quick, just because I've only got a few more days
Yeah,
in town.
okay.
And I'm missing time with my family as well.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 grown kids who followed me to Tremont. All 3 of them have found places to rent. I don't think any of us, maybe I'm wrong. I know, when I was young and getting out, I knew I wasn't gonna be able to buy a home right off the bat. Renting is a viable option for all of our children. It may not be the best thing that we hope for them, but eventually they're gonna get to a place where they can buy. Some things that city council can do is make it easier for cheap rentals. I know that this council has passed some regulations where it's a little bit harder to rent out a room without having a separate driveway for your tenant. You know, you could incentivize people to have cheap rooms to rent in town and make it easier for family, kids, and others to be able to have some place affordable to live in. It doesn't have to be a new home. Another point, Mayor, I had a conversation with you probably a year ago in Midland Square where you had commented to me how surprised you were with the turnout of the vote that previous voting season, how it had gone from a very low percentage to a very high percentage. And that, I think, was last election season. I just want to reiterate what I told you then and to all of these people as well, and this is a good example of that. When things start hitting people's pocketbooks, people start to turn out. This is a huge meeting, and there have been a lot of huge meetings lately, and people are taking notice, and things, I am sure, are going to change in the future with this next voting session. Let's see.
Need more huge meetings.
I think I hit on almost everything except for this one last point, and this is directly to all of you on city council. I remember as a young convert to the church hearing something that was said quite often 25 years ago, but I never hear it anymore, and I'd like you all to keep it in your minds, use it up, wear it out, make do or do without. Tell that to our city manager, tell that to our police department and our fire department and everybody else. As a father of 8, my favorite word to my children, and they tell you, each one of them, my favorite word is no.
Powerful word in
And
English.
it's not very often that I've heard no come from all of those seats up there. So that's what I have to say. I need to get back to my family that I'm not gonna be able to spend a whole lot of time with because I have to make extra money to pay for all the extra taxes.
Thank you.
Travel safe.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I was just gonna address the question you said about the kids. I wanted to let you know that the Brigham Tremont Border.
Could you stand and
Yeah, I'm Laura. I just wanted to let you know that the Brigham Tremont Board of Realtors actually tracks the stats, and I went to a Supportorium. I was invited because I sit on a government affairs board to help protect property rights. And my husband actually got to attend as well because we serve on a lot of water boards in the county. And the Department of Labor also produced stats for Box Elder County. And when they produced the stats to us last fall, they said we were a little over 70% of our children is what they're tracking. So their stats are valid to see.
70% of what?
Like our kids are moving. They said that Box Elder County is one of the higher areas where it's our kids that are our growth. So we're over, they said it's slightly over 70% is our kids. So I thought I'd just let you know, if you would like to see those statistics though, the Brigham Tremont Board of Realtors can provide statistics because it is tracked through the MLS system. But also the Department of Labor, they produced to us the stats because they were talking about median income and talking about, that's where we're talking about affordability, right? And so they talk about median income, what jobs are offered in Tremont, and what are solutions as they're trying to, as a county, solve some of these issues with affordability. And so anyways, I thought I'd just let you know the stat that I'm aware of is slightly over 70% is our children.
My 18 is, are they taking into account people from out of state? I'm not saying that the children aren't, and that's not happening. But what I want to know is, are we actually using other numbers as well, or are we looking at what we want to see so that we can talk to people about it and say, oh, your children, when there's really other things that are adding to it? How much of a percent are coming from outside of the state? I'm just wanting to know those. You don't have to use me now. I just want to know where, if you have those, and that's actually part of your numbers as people coming from out of state, or are we pushing those away and not looking at them?
I think it's
Would the
important
Board of
to note
Realtors
They
that-
actually
know?
did present that, the Department of Labor did, because Salt Lake is our only county that's opposite, that has more people coming to than internal growth. And so that's who presented it to us. I don't know if there's a way to get that with the county, the copy of the Supportorium, because he did say he would give those statistics to anyone. So we probably have to ask the county leaders for that, because that's from the state, right, who produced that. But they did say Salt Lake is backwards, that they're getting more, they're tracking immigration in just as much. So I do know they have all those states with job labor. So that's probably a really good idea to look at that. Like I say, I could just tell you what I know that I was presented to me at the Supportorium of where I get the data.
So what does that mean? That we don't need to build schools?
That's not what she said.
No, that's not what that's saying. That's just saying most of our growth is our kids in our area because people are concerned about everybody.
She's just answering his question.
Yeah, I was just trying to say, I'd probably look at the Department of Labor that they provide those stats, or ask the county if you could get a copy of the Supportorium notes. All the mayors were there and everybody was there, and they did provide all of those stats for them to review to see the housing crisis, because it is a problem.
As far as migration in state and out of state, United Van Lines does an annual survey. Now this is the whole state. So this is state of Utah, total inbound population growth, 49.9%. Total outbound, 50.1%. So it's a wash.
I saw a difference.
Okay. Now, it breaks it down by how many are coming here to retire, how many are leaving to retire. But here's one that's telling, is how many are coming here for a job, 23%. How many are leaving the state for a job, 45%. So that's the whole state of Utah. It's obviously not Box Elder County, but. And I think the Board of Realtors would have that
Follow a
information.
lot of that.
We don't want to conflate I think there's two separate silos to your question. I feel that there's a sentiment on not wanting outsiders. I'm going to validate that for a moment, kind of put it over here. Let me just work this through for a second and suggest that if there's any tension around those folks that aren't here, the same market conditions, though, that provide an opportunity for them, are the same free market enterprise opportunities, presumably for our kids and grandkids. So if we wanted to be completely agnostic about affordability for our kids, it almost shouldn't matter. Because if you have a greater supply that depresses pricing, because now the builders have to be competitive. I mean, part of this, we have nothing to do in Utah with the Fed interest rates. We all know that. We also, the city certainly doesn't have any ability to restrict how many developers there are in the market or how many builders there are and how big their subdivisions are, relatively speaking. The best thing we could hope for is a glut in the market, which would not be what a developer would want to hear, or the farmer that's thinking about making their last crop a bunch of homes. the farmers, the land cost is why homes are so darn expensive right now, because we're not growing them. And there's a certain amount of infrastructure, affordable lots that are next to the freeway that are in an ideal residential area at the edge of infrastructure that they could tie into. Because no farmer is going to likely sell to a developer that's 5 miles away from the edge of infrastructure. I realize now I didn't get back to your infrastructure question, but this is a really important part of that. Development is going to want to occur closest to where the existing stubs are, the road, the water, sewer. Because it's going to be the lowest land development cost for that developer to have sellable lands. Developer will come in through the process, they'll get all the approvals in place, and then the builder will come in and build on top of it. Sometimes the developer and builder is the same, kind of like De Beers example from earlier, vertical integration, where they just consolidate the market. But really what we should want for our kids and grandkids is to build, baby, build, to borrow from Sarah Palin's drill, baby, drill. Build, baby, build, which is not going to get these guys reelected if they did that. That's kind of the tension overtone here tonight. That's the only way to increase supply, which is going to lower the cost. But we also got to have more competition. And unfortunately, we're seeing the consolidation of that too. You've got these big mega builders that I could go through with brand names, but I don't want to impugn the folks that aren't here to defend themselves. So again, it gets a little complex, but the same great thing that would be good for our kids and grandkids will also likely attract folks along the Wasatch Front or Colorado or California, because they're after the same kind of opportunity that our kids and grandkids would want. And unfortunately, like I was saying earlier, the tension that's been here tonight, it's up and down the Wasatch Front. Even Farmington is having these conversations, despite as much as we might think that, oh, they've already accepted the growth. They're okay. They're already fast growing, and they're okay with it. They're really not.
Sir, this lady right over, I'll get to you. This lady right over here has been, had her hand up for quite a while, and
That's okay.
let's recognize you. Could you give us your name?
Marie Lund.
Okay.
I had a question about the projected numbers you mentioned, that we'll have all of this growth in the next 10 years. And if it's from within Utah, I wonder, is that growth for people who work in Salt Lake and Ogden, where it might be more expensive to live, but also they're making more money, that are trying to extend their commute so that they can live more affordably and then maintain those jobs? And then if it's affordable housing, affordable, whatever that means, who are we creating affordable housing for? For the children that we have that we hope stay here forever, some of us not, most of the world, it's fine. Or are we creating that affordable housing for people with higher incomes that now want to extend their commute? It's not clear to me, and this is the first meeting I come to. I've read a bunch of things on Facebook and past minutes for meetings, but I don't know everything, so maybe this is me having a gap in my knowledge. But I'm wondering, who is it that we are creating this affordable housing for? And will they put money from their paychecks back into our community here so that we can build a rec center, so that we can have, I have family in Centerville, and Provo, and Springville, and they say, yeah, you guys need to build, you need more homes up there. But in Provo, and in Springville, and in Centerville, they have awesome public amenities that I haven't seen grow here, but we also don't have the population growth here. So those people who are coming to buy the homes here, are they going to
Pay taxes.
well, they'll pay taxes, right, because the home is here, but
So that's what pays for those amenities. Growth.
John and I are going to differ on this, because if you look at,
But they're not vested. So like in other.
But will they be part of our community, or will their
Yes.
community be where they work or other places? Are they looking to live somewhere cheap but go?
Yes. And that's,
So-
I agree with that, because they're not invested in our community. They're pass through.
Well,
And-
hang on just a second, because until March, that was the situation that my wife and I found ourselves in. I retired out of West Jordan. We moved back up here, and until March, we both still worked down there and we were commuting. But we shopped at Ken's. We filled up with Jim and Dave's.
But
We did
that's,
all those things and
that's
including
not the
that.
norm.
I recognize that it's not norm, but when we get into the, you know, these wide brushes, I mean, it's one of those things where we do have to be selective about what it is that we're targeting, because, yeah, now we're both up here, we work up here, we're here all the time, we don't leave, I hate going to Salt Lake. It was one of the greatest things to finally not have to commute down there. But we spend just as much money inside of Tremont as the people that went to work a mile from their house. And so it's kind of
It wasn't intended to be a large brush, so
Okay,
I think
I
you're
get it.
misunderstanding what I was trying to say.
I get it.
So I
Tonight's been a lot of
apologize.
white brush.
Yeah,
White brush painting, so.
Can I make some comments and ask some questions, because I think it'll partly.
Yeah, why don't you stand up and just give us your name so we,
My name is Jonathan Butler. I've been to the last few planning meetings here a bit with Bo and Brent Rhodey, and I appreciate they've been going over the 5-year plan, right? The prognosis and that stuff. And it takes everybody starting to get more active, so I appreciate you guys doing your time here. Over the last few meetings that I've been to in regards to discussion, things that stick out to my mind is in the approved building that we have for homes, for residents. I was told that Tremont, with the stuff that has been approved, we will be going from a 70% single-family dwelling, 30% multifamily dwelling, to a 60% single-family dwelling to 40% multifamily dwelling status here in Tremont. 40% to me is a large number of multifamily dwellings, whether you call it apartments, townhomes, whatever. That's a big number to me. It's been brought up multiple times of the growth. Yes, we're not going to get away from the growth, and I understand that here in Tremont. And targeting different businesses that could help our kids or us to have better paying jobs. We're talking about bringing in more, let's change the zoning and increase the number of multifamily dwellings. When years ago, and it was in 21 when we had the big River's Edge meeting over at and I'm gonna bring this back again because it was brought up before. We had the meeting over at the fairgrounds, and we talked, and we had the school board come, we had the water district come, we had a bunch of the high people up that knew about this stuff. They talked about the well, the being bought and having bad wells for Tremont. And I've talked recently to some friends from Corinne, talked about how Tremont has bought water from Corinne, taken away from their growth because their residents now don't have the water for theirs. I'm just saying this is.
I'm not sure, I'm not familiar with that one.
Okay, well, what I'm getting at is in the meeting in 21, if I remember right, and we can go to the meetings for that, it was discussed because there were 628 homes, if I remember, 628 residences approved just in that development alone. But the water that we had at the time was sufficient for 1,250 to 1,500 homes. That was before all of this other development had gone on. That's before we start targeting which businesses we want to bring in. I do commercial electric, I do industrial electrical, so I'm familiar with construction. Those businesses need water. Anytime you bring in a business, you're going to use up more water as well. We see it with what we have here. My concern, and we talk about people coming in and spending money here in town and still commuting to other places. It's been brought up, we have a Walmart coming in, a grocer. Whoop-de-doo. We have grocery stores, we have fast food joints, we have hardware stores. We have no other revenue to keep that in our community. And I feel like we're trying to push in more, just build homes and homes and homes. But when we as community members go to spend money, where are we spending it, and why are we not bringing other
Dining?
There's stores, yes, we can shop local. Clothing stores, that is a big one to me. I've got 4 kids.
Restaurants
No.
besides fast food.
There's multiple things that we can bring in, and I know it's gonna take everybody's input to do that, but different ways to spend the money here in our community. I'm gonna go back to the comments, sorry, and where I was going at with this, I'm getting a little distracted. But we talked about targeting different commercial businesses coming in, right? And it was also proposed, why can't we do the same thing with residencies? Because at the time, I know the comment was also made that the average household income for Tremont was $60,000 a year.
I think 67.
So, we're talking about that regarding this gentleman's input, that means that the average affordable housing is about 180,000, but we know, based on what I've seen, if you can find one for 300,000, you're doing good. And that's not affordable here, that's affordable for somebody else.
That's affordable, yeah.
How can we drop that down, and I go back to the discussion that Bo asked quite frequently, how can we target, which businesses do we target? Can we do the same thing with developers? And I understand that they're gonna come closer to the city limits because of all of the extra costs, because your house isn't just going to be the property, it's not just gonna be the house, it's the infrastructure that's gotta be processed into that. But how can we, and this is gonna be input from everybody, how that can be done?
How do you attract a business to come here?
How do you, well,
You can't bring them here, they have to have.
they've gotta wanna
You have to
have.
have what they need to.
Yes, but we also see in other places where they offer tax breaks and all that crap, but
Well-
you can only do so
I
much.
think tax breaks are an exception.
But if we're only trying to do, what I'm saying is if we're only targeting residences,
So if you
you
give a-
can't just rely on houses to be your income for your county. You gotta have businesses and you gotta have places for people to spend their money in your
So
town.
this is why Box Elder County employs Sean, Economic Development Director. He tries to get businesses to come here, to this city, to this county. He understands what they need and what would attract them and incentivize them to establish a business here. Talk to Sean.
And we've got some exciting stuff brewing with businesses right now
They did a great job.
that I can't say.
Need to turn up the heat.
But I don't feel.
But I also have a question to go with that, and I have a question to go with that. As we court a business, I had a meeting with a business who wants 75,000 square feet, right? But they also need employees. They need good employees. So it's a double-edged sword, right? There's a lot of facets
Jobs
to
and
it.
housing go hand in hand. You gotta have housing to,
They won't bring a business here if they're not gonna have people to work and both in high-end jobs, and also in factory roll line type jobs. There's both needed. Yeah.
So, addressing that, where we don't have the housing, we need the businesses. I know we've had businesses here that have wanted to move in onto 2000 West, and maybe that's a hard thing, I don't know. But on 2000 West, where Valley of Granite is and Golden Spike Electric, they've been turned down, and so they've moved over to Garland. And that's money we could have had in the city. Those are local businesses that we didn't have to bring in from somewhere else.
When you say they've been turned down for zoning, or what? In what ways were they turned down? Because
Bruce Hancock did that. I know Bruce Hancock for sure. He put in an application, I don't know what you call it, but he was turned down because he was told that they wanted a bigger tax.
Well, it had to do with, it had to do,
Bring more taxes to the people, so they shut it down, and he built in Garland instead.
yeah, and it also had to do with the widening of the road coming on to 1000 North, as I recall. There was other issues besides just, there were some other things. No, I agree with you. I think we should have made an extra effort we should have worked hard to make sure that would have been in Tremont.
Yeah, because there's a whole empty space on 2000 West.
Yeah, we've got, there are some exciting opportunities that we can't talk about at the moment, but there are some really exciting opportunities coming our way with some businesses.
And it's not, when we say we can't talk about it, it's not because we don't. Developers ask a certain level of privacy before they come in. You can't be saying, "Oh, they're going to be doing this." I just heard the name Walmart. I haven't heard that. You know what I mean? So like, it's really important that we understand that like they also don't want to make an announcement.
Already.
So we have to honor fiduciary duty with them at a certain level when we're negotiating. So, but
Do you
yeah.
know how many of the apartments, because I know there's a ton of apartments, townhomes, whatever, the percentage of those that are for rent, and how many of those are actually vacant compared to, because if we're talking about affordable housing and being able to have enough people to have homes for, how many vacant places do we have?
I don't know we don't know that information right now. That's something we can find out. But just to say something, I would dare say anything like that.
Jeff and I, several months ago, went over to Matheson to kind of feel that out and get a gauge for how full they are. And if they are an indication, and I know that they're kind of a higher end, not necessarily income controlled or like, whatever, they're an expensive place to live. They said they're, 90-something% full?
92 to 95.
92 to 95%. And so that shows that there is a market for that. And there was a question, if I may, there was a question about what moderate income housing means or what affordable housing means. The state actually has a definition for that, and it is 80% of the area median income. In Box Elder County, according to Google, it says that the median household income is about, as of 2023, is about $80,000. So it's gone up maybe a little bit since the census, which put us closer to 60-something. I would say, because that data is from 2023, I would say that we're closer to $80,000 right now. It said 77,865 in 2023. I'd say it's probably closer to 80, just based on the trends we're seeing. That means that, and that's a household, that means that the median household income can afford a $240,000 home in Tremont. And if you find that home, I'm in the market and would love to move in. You can't find one. You can't find a home in Tremont for less than $300,000. There is one in Garland that is 821 square feet. That's for sale for just under $300,000. It's in Garland. 800 square feet. This is the world we're dealing. That's not even the affordable threshold. The affordable threshold is 80% of the median income. So 80% of 80,000 is about 64,000, if my math is right on that. Jeff, does that sound right?
Sure.
Okay, thanks. So if you triple 64,000, you're looking at 190, less than $200,000 for a home. There are no houses for sale for that amount. So we don't have any affordable homes in Tremont.
So by bringing in more homes, it'll never get to that level though. So what does it benefit to bring in more if you're never going to be selling at that level anyway?
This is the conundrum. You're exactly right. I don't know the answer to that.
I would disagree, but again, we've got a concentration in the market. And I'm gonna mix a few things in the ingredients here.
Yeah.
But not everybody needs a McMansion as their first home.
We're just talking about starter homes.
Fair enough. So we ought to be having a conversation about square footage minimums or maximums. But at the same time, the smaller those units are, the more resistant communities usually are to that being built next to them. Because there's this dichotomy of, but that doesn't look and feel quite like me and my neighbor. So there's that, and I am admittedly mixing a couple things together. But you also have very few, relative to what it was 20 years ago, builders. So a lot of build mansions at $500,000 and get 20% profit, or I can build starter homes at $200,000 and still get 20% profit. My margin's the same, but quantifiably, which one's gonna produce a higher yield? It's gonna be a $500,000 home. But these guys can't control that. Furthering the problem is the land costs. Land costs aren't the same as they were 20 or even 10 or 5 years ago, pre-pandemic. Because every farmer thinks that they're sitting on a gold mine. And some of them are right, not all of them, but a lot of them, they're able to get what they're asking for. And that's their last crop. And it is very emotionally important to them and their family. For 5 generations, that's what they did. And the builders know, there aren't a whole lot of these that are getting approved, these mixed use or whatever kind of controversial rezone requests they might have. And so there's fewer parcels that are available that are big land tracts. Many of them will buy them today and then land bank them for 10 years before they actually build on them because they realize the conundrum of where they're at. And so they're land banking for the homes they're going to build in 10 years. So even if there's homes that are bought today,
there's a
bought today,
website.
homes that are approved today, doesn't mean they're coming on the market
Fannie
next
Mae,
year.
that
Matter of fact, there's usually quite a lag.
median
So you see,
income.
there's a lot of different
If you
ingredients
just
here
Google
that
that, it'll pull up
don't
this page
necessarily
because
make
that
statement
address is
true,
way
that
longer.
if we built a whole bunch, the price would come down. And I get to really casually say this, but
When
I
you get a
guarantee if
chance.
we
Yeah,
built
so,
a
so you can, and when I looked it up, it had all of
prices would come down because
So when I
days
do
on market
Logan
last
area,
longer.
it's got
So you'd have a competition to see
statistical
who can
area.
attract various amount of buyers. But again, I've also totally disregarded the amenities that people are asking for. What I found totally acceptable for my first home is different than what the amenities for somebody that's 23 looking to buy their first home, or somebody that's looking to downsize but not downgrade. Totally.
What's the general public perception for accessory dwelling units?
ADUs, maybe we can just take just a moment and talk a little bit about ADUs, because that is one of the areas that, where we talk about low income or family members that want to live around here. Accessory dwelling units are a serious option that's available to us. Does everybody kind of understand what an ADU is?
Explain it.
Accessory dwelling unit. So a detached, it could be detached, it could be attached to a single family dwelling, and they would be able to, the state will allow for that. In fact, they encourage us to have these accessory dwelling units. It could be, I don't know that it involves like a basement apartment, but it certainly involves a mother-in-law apartment on a home, or it involves a detached.
The more we can do to educate the community.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
acceptance of these. But my concern more is has there been a lot of resistance? from-
I think initially there was, I haven't sensed that.
Going up next door, is there a lot of resistance, complaints? Because I think we have to also be accepting of these types of structures.
Yeah, we do.
If we want to help address the concern.
That's a true.
They're legal in Utah, or in Tremont, so.
Yeah, well, they're illegal in the state. The state is encouraging.
They're legal.
They're legal.
Yeah.
right? They're not legal though in Garland.
Yeah, they are.
They are now?
They have to be per the state code.
Okay.
They passed it on
In fact,
everyone.
if you go into state Title 10 dash 8 dash 85.4, it's right here on
I
mine.
almost had that memorized.
So Title 10, the state code, that's the municipal code. So the code that I have up here kind of pertains to that, talks about the restrictions. And again, that's 10-8-85.4. You can pull that up and then you can scroll through that and it'll give you the rules and regulations that pertain to accessory
So they're
dwelling units.
not, it's not specific to the city anymore?
No.
That's
No, it's a state.
No, it's a
So
state
that's
code.
new.
State code.
That's gotta be new. It hasn't
Yeah.
always been that.
Relatively new, within the last year or two.
It's been building for like the last 5 years. This is a revision that happened this year in 2025, but you've had this happen the last 3 years. The state's very adamant about this. This is one of the directions the state's going on my end, doing the code stuff to try and help with what we have taking place out there as far as, places for our kids to live.
We got
And
to
different
have
options.
education.
To go with what the mayor was saying, these are both interior and exterior.
And ADUs are a good a good use of low, people can afford those.
Yeah.
They're great.
And it's a great capitalization of your existing infrastructure.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to dig up the road to put in an extra toilet and plumbing and water. And so for taxpayers that are, existing, it's actually the most efficient thing that they can hope for.
Christine?
I want to circle back to quality of life real quick, and I just wanted to appreciate everybody out here. I know that there's tension, there's in lots of different ways, but I appreciate the time. I took time away. I have my kids at home watching TV. They're like, stay as long as you want. But
The power's off right now.
anyway, I want to direct this
Answer
to
prayers.
council and to our city planner managers. As you're going through this phase and we're growing together, first of all, I appreciate the feedback that we're getting, the ability to contribute like we have. I noticed that I made a comment to the treasurer or to the recorder saying it would be nice to have addresses put on the public notices. That was done instantly. So we are seeing, we citizens are seeing that there's efforts being made, and I appreciate that. And as you guide through this, we're talking about economics, we're talking about growth, we're talking about all these different things we're talking about. Don't forget the children. And don't forget that they need to have somewhere to walk. That, I will be a champion for sidewalks for this whole city, not just 1000 North, but for everywhere. So the only way we can do that as a city council is by the zoning. If the area if you have the infrastructure ready and they can have sidewalks, build. That's great. I'm in support of that. But because we're dealing with a small country trying to get bigger, just make sure it's at a balanced rate, and that's kind of where I think we have a lot of the fluctuation. And I think so. Don't forget that we need those sidewalks for those kids. Not just sidewalks, curb, gutter, lights. All those things need to come into play. And so as we're strategically going after a plan, make sure that you guys remember that. And I know you'll remember that, and I do appreciate that. So that's what I was going to say. And there was one other thing, and I can't remember it. Go ahead.
Can I add upon
Sure.
what she's just saying? And along with that, take a look at the infrastructure that's in place now. Because for example, we've talked about River's Edge and 600 homes or whatever the amount is going in over there. But there's outlets going north, going east, going south, and even west and back and down. But there's 3 outlets that can going onto roads in River's Edge. But you take 600 homes and put them up above 10th North, and there's one outlet. There's one outlet, and I've heard, people will get on the freeway. Well, sure they will. They'll get on the freeway.
After they pass my child walking on the street.
Yeah, and that's what we've got. She's talking about sidewalks and safety of the children. Well, if we have 600 new homes go up there, that's 1,200, minimum of 600 cars, probably 1,200 cars going up and down that road that your kids are walking.
And I know our hill's gonna develop. That's fine. I know that.
But the thing is to just look at the infrastructure there, because if that many homes are gonna go up there, there needs to be another outlet, not just 10th North. There needs to be, and who's gonna build that? It's gonna have to go over the freeway. Who's gonna pay for that?
Mayor, isn't that Bear Valley Road getting tie-in?
Yeah, BR
Off
Mountain.
of 2000 or 2300 West now, out there by, that road's gonna go alongside of the freeway and tie back into 1000 North when it's done.
That's the problem, tie into 1000 North. You're still adding traffic to 1000 North, which is already overloaded.
Well, no, they can take that Bear Valley Road that's gonna come down. I can see it on the, it's that dead end road where all them,
Take away from the traffic that'll come down.
right.
Unless they're going to one of the schools or to Garland.
Well,
It's all gonna
I live
change.
by North Park School, and I get a lot of traffic every morning and every afternoon too, and it's, there's a few things that, we can put another outlet up there, but traffic is traffic no matter where you are. The poor people that live in front of the high school can't get on and off roads, and
I didn't mean to turn this into as you are in general, as you guys are planning the future of our city, take those things into consideration just as much as the economics and as what we as Tremont can handle. And
Doing our best.
That's just all I wanted to say.
Well, and I'd like to add on to that, if you don't mind, is these continued comments and these continued input from you is important, right? And so you need to please talk to the city council, get hold of every one of them, email them, call them, talk to them, and let's share.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're here to represent you.
Michael Allen. Question I have, we were under the impression by coming here tonight, we were going to discuss the Freeman Farms subdivision on what the code was going to be on how much property or how many houses were going to be put in. And then the vote was going to be made by the city council tomorrow night. We haven't talked about that per se. We've talked all different directions. Again, the majority of the people in that area do not want multiple housing south of the freeway.
So I have a question on that. If we follow the land use plan, which is already in place, it's industrial. So we're talking
No.
warehousing.
There's a current land use plan, a long-term land use plan, and then a future long-term plan, which from my understanding in the land use plan says that's the future long-term plan is 20 to 50 years out. That is the only one that shows that industrial. So that means for the next 20 years, it's not zoned yet. I mean, it's not zoned, so that was just but that industrial zoning doesn't come into play till the third future long use plan. That's not currently zoned.
And what's in the current one then?
It's currently, the stuff closest to it is unzoned, and then it's agriculture, large lots.
Closest zone is R110.
R110.
Closest zone to that parcel is R110.
But all of that was not annexed, and so it's not zoned, but that industrial zoning that everyone keeps running around is not in there till the future long-term plan, which says it's 20 to 50 years down the road.
And
So
we didn't discuss what we.
We should go off the current land use plan.
Are you still gonna vote tomorrow when
It's on the agenda.
no input from us?
Well, give us input.
Well, we have.
Keep doing it. Well, I mean, what do you want out there?
Bottom line, we don't want anything, multiple housing south of the freeway.
So quarter acre lots? What do you want out there? What? I'm sorry. What are you thinking?
Minimum quarter acre. We don't want 8 families on an acre.
Okay.
Quarter acre lot, that's a $600,000 house.
Go in the land use
Nobody
plan
can
on
afford
your
it.
guiding
Yeah, we
principles.
Yeah.
It
Very
talks
few
about
people can afford it.
People can afford it.
Very few families can
Well,
afford it.
I know. I'm under the impression in this meeting today is that what folks from Logan or Cache Valley were gonna present to us was multiple housing is the only way to go to fix the housing
Remember when I
crisis.
talked about median?
Right, the median income.
Income
But
housing?
wasn't your presentation going to take us further down the road to apartment complexes, to housing?
Oh, no. We're just simply advocating for, if you wanna have a healthy economy, I mean, I'd love to spend another hour and a half with the folks that care about getting geeky about this. If you wanna have a healthy economy, you gotta have growth.
True.
And how you acknowledge growth, I'm gonna go back to that investment strategy at different points in time. Like even the gentleman that brought up the 60-40 versus 70-30, it's gonna be a moment in time. And as this community matures, like those that have been here before, and they are now much bigger, it will ebb and flow. That proportionality will always change and be in flux. We were never here to talk about just rental inventory versus ownership. I'm gonna advocate as an economic development professional, ownership. I want more ownership than not, because at your stage of life, sir, if you were renting and didn't have an estate, you'd have less discretionary income to spend in the community. I want everyone to have home ownership earlier on as much as they can, because that sets them up for better personal investment and what they can contribute to the economy later on. Rotary, Kiwanis Club, you name it. Like there's a lot of nonprofits. When they're successful, they keep government small because community members can do more for themselves. If you're barely making ends meet and you're 75 and you have to work in order to pay your bills, you can't contribute to things like that. Like, you can't be as accessible as grandpa. There's all sorts of things to read into that, but you can see I'm going down a rabbit hole. We weren't gonna be here to advocate for anthill rental situations. That's not our, it is about keeping and retaining our youth, because our youth is what employers are gonna look at, the education level, the quality of life. We want good paying jobs. We have to have a good and attractive community. Anyway, sorry if,
Well,
don't
the
know how
impression
that-
I originally got was that's the direction. it's going.
Sorry.
And I apologize.
And
if
what
that's
I
not
said
what we were
earlier
asked
is
for.
we need housing development across all economic levels, not just middle income.
And we
Every
got to-
city council meeting I go to, we only want single-family homes on quarter-acre lots or bigger. That's all I hear. Well, that's not gonna solve our housing problem. It's not gonna accommodate our young people. I'd like to have my kids and grandkids live here, and great-grandkids grow up here, close to, you know.
I have 3 children,
Yeah.
and all 3 of them are not in Tremont. They opted, because of work, to go someplace else.
So back to the Iowa where you were talking about, if you're going off the land use plan, because tomorrow you're gonna be voting on the zoning, this is kind of what my thoughts have been lying along. Guiding principle number 3 says, use careful considered zoning ordinances to ensure compatibility of adjacent land uses and apply appropriate buffers transitioning for conflicts. And it also talks about having access to roads and highways, and that's the quality of life. Where if you're putting those zoning inappropriate where the infrastructure can actually support the zone that you zone it for tomorrow. So that's kind of what my plug that I would put in is make sure when you're zoning, and I'm not gonna tell you what to zone it, but when you're zoning tomorrow, that it has the infrastructure, and then it does in the land use plan say to keep the multi-family housing units close to the urban core so they have access to trails, to roads. And I know in the future that is going to be an urban center, but currently what can the city have, and is it going to be, if getting the infrastructure out to them, is that gonna add more tax burden to the citizens? Because those kids are gonna be walking down Iowa Stream, and that's gonna be worse than 1000 North. And so can those kids walk from their house to Maverick safely? And that's where my concern is in the city, and that's my perspective is where I think we should have all different kinds of housing. I think we should have different areas. I'm not against anything, but I wanna make sure that those kids, because I had an incident where my 6-year-old walked down the country road because she missed her bus stop, and it's 20 years, and we didn't get sidewalks. And the city told us we would have sidewalks, and I am not a naive young mom anymore. And I don't want kids moving out there that can't walk to Maverick because the city didn't put in sidewalks, or they allowed the zoning too big for too much density so that those kids aren't safe. So I want them to move in, but I want them to move into a safe place. So that's what I would be presenting for you guys tomorrow, so.
Thank you. That was, I appreciate that comment.
I would agree, we don't want multiple housing south.
Okay, thank you.
I think too that we need to listen to our police officer over here that made a very valid point about the drugs that we have in, and to me, multi-level housing, not buying housing, living in, is where those people are gonna move while they do their temporary crimes through the city.
Okay.
I will
All
say
right.
that I had a neighbor where I lived a few years ago, single family detached. They were a drug dealer.
Well, it can happen anywhere.
Correct. So
You're
it's
right,
not
it can
about
happen
density
anywhere.
per
But
se.
I'm just saying, the density gives them more options that doesn't keep them there permanently, in my opinion.
And I will say that the Matheson Apartments are quite active on my police scanner.
I guess I didn't. Who said that?
Debbie.
Oh, Debbie. Oh, okay. Thanks, Debbie. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm watching a bunch of faces that are starting to get a little bit wore out. Let's take a comment or two more, and then let's try to continue this discussion. We, we have all the council members up here. We want to hear what you have to say, and I think that this has been very been very fruitful discussion that I've certainly learned a lot. But let's go ahead and let's take a couple of more comments. Let's try to wrap this up at 9:30. Yes, sir.
John Alico. Relative to the integrated land use plan, I understand that it's 20 to 50 years out for industrial, but if you put houses on it today, you're never going to make it industrial in 20 years. If you need it in 20 years to be industrial as part of your land use plan, you got to keep it available for industrial now.
Thank you.
I'm just trying to salvage some of the feelings here tonight, because I think that's important. I'm like, oh, I don't want our city to be so divided, because there is a lot of feelings right now in the city, and I feel like I'm trying to be like a,
And we're united.
and yeah, I want to be more united. I want to feel like we can communicate, and I know you guys probably were very offended by the reaction, but I think that was created by a situation you probably didn't realize coming in, and we didn't realize coming in, because we were expecting to talk about, most of us, this annexation and the zoning situation. And I don't know about the rest of you, but I spent hours today making notes, talking about what I was gonna talk about. You know, we made plans and we were all a little nervous, then we come, and that whole, like, it was just not what we expected. So of course people are gonna feel a little frustrated. And also I feel like we're talking about a specific situation that's getting voted on tomorrow that you guys haven't seen, you're not familiar with, you don't know what we're talking about, you don't know how many units are gonna, and I feel like you also came in with a thing that we're against all outsider. You know, I feel like several things were said that were not said by anyone here, so I don't know who made that. I don't know if anyone else feels that way, but I feel like you came in with a chip on your shoulder about us. And I feel like most of us are good people and we are welcoming neighbors, but our balance is getting a little out of hand. And for those of us who have seen Eagle Mountain and Saratoga Springs, it's frightening. My husband owns a construction yard in West Weber, and we have seen roads like Iowa String turn into, we have existing homes that were on these small, quiet roads that are now surrounded by 4-story apartments on every side, and it's crazy, and that's scary. When you're living right there, that's scary, and you grew up in that small town and you want that. So there has to be a balance, and I'm not saying we can't put our foot and say no growth, but I think we need to be smart about the growth, and we need to be wise, and that's all people are asking. They just want to slow down and be wise and make our community something that we are excited about in 20 years. I hear people that all these people, like, are saying, we were from Eagle Mountain, we were from those areas, and they're running as fast as they can, you know, and you can say, you know, it's gonna ebb and flow, but if you don't control the ebb and flow, we see what happens in these communities, and they are irrecognizable in 2 to 3 years. You know, it's townhomes for miles and miles and miles, and it just changes your community, and we love what we have here, and I think it can grow, but we need to be very careful. And we should have a voice in how that grows. And if we want it somewhere our kids want to stay, because what I'm hearing so many families say is, I'm looking for land, I'm ready to move, it's not what it used to be. And it doesn't mean there's not great people, and I think Brent Jex is a voice to listen to. When we say that multifamily housing does not affect crime, he is a police officer with, you know, I'm a social worker. It's just statistically that's not true. And it doesn't mean there's not a lot of great families in multifamily housing, but statistically you have to be very careful with the balance in your community. And when that outgrows your single family housing, and you'll have bad families in single family housing, it's just the way it is. But I just think we need to be wise, we need to be careful, and that's what the land use plan says. It's just careful, wise planning that keeps our agriculture field. And if that survey that you guys did is statistically relevant with 103 responses, then the survey on the Tremont website with 1,300 responses should be relevant, which I have told by Mr. Kobabe, bless your heart, Bill, you said that was not relevant because that was not a good representation. Well, if that was statistically relevant at 103, then all the responses on that survey on the Tremont website that say our #1 priority is keeping it rural, protecting a small town feel, growing while we're protecting open space, and be careful what our growth is, that should matter.
Yep.
Can I ask follow-up on that real quick then? Did I just hear that you would prefer industrial?
Rural.
I didn't hear that.
I feel like what people are feeling is a threat, like you can back down and let us do multifamily housing, or we're gonna keep it industrial. That's what it feels like, and I don't think that's right.
No, I'm just going off of what is intended for the plan. It has been set, and we as a city council will choose that. But I'm just trying to understand, past leadership has laid out a plan of where we're headed with what areas. And so I'm in order to change away from what has been laid out and voted upon and approved, as a city council, we have to have a good reason why to change that, right? So I'm trying to justify in my head with you.
Just on those plans, so it doesn't even show that being annexed, so to me, like, if we're not. we didn't
Well, it's
show that
inside the annexation boundary.
not on the current plan. So
No.
we're throwing that out.
I have a question. If we didn't annex that or isnay it, you're still gonna build the houses there, right? In the county.
It's unzoned, right? In the county, it's unzoned. That's why.
But
we
it's
gotta-
not in the county
Okay,
anymore.
I know it isn't, but you gotta recognize that your property is considered to be mixed use, okay? Because you've got your house on there with a commercial unit. And that's because you can do whatever you want in the county, because it's unzoned. So you gotta recognize that when you guys all put your places in, you could do whatever you want. If we wanted to put in a distribution center, we could do that. The reality is we've come to the city to be able to get infrastructure in that makes it more sense. If it's gonna be multifamily housing, we're not even pitching multifamily housing right now. We're pitching R18, which is 8,000 square foot, single family lots. That's our zoning that we can get. Now, if we wanted to.
How
go-
many acre?
That's about 4 per acre.
So
Okay?
quarter acre?
Quarter acre.
Now, if we wanted to get bonus density, we can throw in some things, but it has to be approved from the city council. Okay, so the reality is we've not asked for anything in the multifamily yet. We've talked about it, but we've had
Sounds like
sit downs
more.
with people saying, hey, maybe if we go single family housing, smaller lots, so people can afford it. The reality is we have a major housing crisis. They've gone over it today. And we need to figure out ways to figure out affordability. The other areas are also looking at R1 or
R110, R120?
20 is a portion of it, which is half acre lots. And some of them are third acre lots. It's not everything. The reality is, I think some of the stats is 4 units per acre is the minimum that actually pays for the infrastructure to continue forward as we go on.
Does it help go down to Maverick? Like, will the infrastructure, because those kids are gonna be wanting to go into town, and how far out is that gonna be? That's.
So I've already, our plan is to put, because our pieces are 2 angled pieces. And our plan is to put adjoining walking trails from one to the other.
But just in your area,
And we would
right?
take it out to the corner. The best places for us to bring it is over by where Sierra Homes is building underneath the other viaduct, not the Maverick one, because we don't have any property on that side.
We were told at the planning meeting, and this is a good question for you, because we were told at the planning meeting, and they voted on it, that you wanted to put high-density apartments by the cement factory, because you wouldn't be able to sell homes there. There are 5 homes on the side of it now, and they all sold with no problems, but we were told you were gonna put apartments there.
We've not had any apartments that are in our plan at all.
And that's where
Townhomes.
we've had,
We
that's
did
where we've had the
townhomes.
grief is the apartments. So
But
there is-
townhomes, because so that it's ownership, right? Because you heard that was your.
Because of what we've heard as input, we started out at RM8, and we've taken the input, we went down to R18, which is reduce the density, what we're trying to do, because we're paying for all the infrastructure to get out there, and it's not, feasible for, there's a lot of, I know that you said that there's not a lot of people who wanted it, but there's 4 people there that have major issues with their septic tanks.
Yes, there are 4 people.
And there was plenty of people from Freedom Farms that signed.
But they would not have. The reason they signed it is because they took away the 17,000. That $17,000, they didn't have it.
But I got it from good information that there was raw sewage going into a storm drain
I don't know
2
about
years
that.
ago,
I did
and
know-
you can't have that in anybody's
I know
spot.
there's 4 people that have septic tank problems that were all built, the same builder
So,
built them all.
so the people I talked to was glad because they were maybe one of them.
There are some that were glad. I
And-
think it was split about half and half.
So-
They were having a hard time
but-
getting over the half.
But my question was, we annexed that because it's closer, they got sewer problems, the health department's been here every year. I've only been here just 2 years, telling us that you can't have that many houses on septic tanks. So we do that, but if we don't do it, say we iskay it and say, nope, there you go, then you're still gonna build them.
Are not-
All the people still use all the Tremont entities, the fire trucks still have to come there and everything, and we don't get any taxes from it.
But you also have septic tanks all the way from Main Street down to us, do you not? I understand that you
That-
do.
There are 5 houses
The houses north of
where
us
we
that are in
live.
Tremont and have septic tanks.
There's still septic tanks in certain places in, but this isn't like a new thing, and they're not dumping raw sewage on
Yeah, I don't know about that.
a wet spring.
So when you say townhomes, Brody, are you talking multiple housing?
We were planning on just a townhome row right in front of the cement plant. The
Which
rest
would
of it
be
was
how
all-
many?
I don't know, however many would line up there, and then we would do a park and put in single family all the way up to Kelly's place. And that was our plan, is because that part is just really a tough spot. I mean, if you've gone over there, you've got the trucks coming in and out, and we don't want, to her point over there, you don't want the kids running out over there.
And that is a concern. I feel like we need to really address the speed limits on those roads because those cement trucks fly and then they slam on their brakes. So we're done there. And I think we're not trying to be unreasonable. We just want to try and protect.
Yeah, and I just wanted to
our area.
understand
We wanna
because
protect all
I
the
was
people
under the
that have
impression it was a
farms still and tractors that are trying to move around and big animals, and I don't know, it's just that's the area we're in, and so we're not trying to be unreasonable, but it's also kind of setting a precedence for what goes in that whole area as you zone it, and that's kind of a big deal, because you've already approved like 8,000 multifamily housing, I don't know if that's all, but there's a lot of multifamily housing units that have been approved already, that are already being built without any of this. So we're pretty high on the multifamily housing numbers, you know what I mean? So I feel like in these outer areas is where we should keep a little more open space. That's what the land use plan says, and I think that's what people love about Tremont, We're not trying to be unreasonable, we're just trying to, we want to be happy we live there in 20 years. Yeah, we
So
don't-
is there objection knowing what Brody has said tonight? Are there still concerns about the R18 as going in that area, in that one area?
Concerns about the lift station.
Okay.
People.
Yep.
If someone was gonna come tonight, but he texted and said, is there a point, and everyone told him there's no point in coming, so he didn't, but he's a civil engineer, he's learned, he knows a lot about him, he said there's issues, it's not like from what, my husband's talked to people that run the lift stations in Elwood and Delta, like he works all over Utah, and they're a huge expense later on, a huge expense for the city, and I get that the callers are putting the cost up front, but they'll get that back in impact fees, and the city's left to hold that, and they said, once a pump goes out, you've got like 2 hours before that starts backing up into the first house all the way down. So I just don't know that it's odor, like they said, it's not constant, but you're gonna have odor off and on, And I admit, like we have a wedding venue right there, that's not ideal, you know what I mean? To be right next to a sewer station.
Mayor, I got something to say about lift pumps. I know cities that run lift pumps that they don't have problems. They have a backup motor there. You just can't always have sewers that go down hills and there's some, I'm sure, with problems, but talking to a lot of other cities that have them, they've had no problems. So we don't want to make everybody think that if we put a pump station in, we're going to have problems, it's going to back up, We're going to put we're going to make somebody pay for the best equipment money can buy to put it in there and maintain.
No, it's not. No.
They are a pain, but it's better than having raw sewage go down somewhere. And that's the only way to, unless you build a sewer treatment plant.
Or you replace those 4 septic systems.
Right.
Just let people be on bigger lots on septic systems that are working great for all of us, It's just the one builder had 4 that failed.
Well, it's the water table,
But
where they're all-
the other homes, even if it was all acre lots,
They
that's
were
gonna
acre lots.
increase. No, I'm saying even if we zone tomorrow, even if we zoned all 1 acre lots, the sewage problem doesn't go away. Right? That's not just gonna go away even with 1 acre lots. So that's my concern, is that if we don't put in the lift station and we put in 1 acre lots, sewage is gonna be an issue. And it's gonna be an issue at scale, and that's what I'm most concerned about.
But you should be zoning R18 out there. What else is around it is R18?
Right across, my other piece is R110. And mine's the closest piece to anything
But that
that's
was
there.
just zoned recently.
Yeah, it's the most recent zone, and the other one other zone is mixed use, which is, the next one is mixed use is the closest one. So our closest ones are mixed use or R1.
And industrial.
No,
Oh, yeah, because that's not bad.
it's not zoned yet, but those are our two closest zonings, mixed use or R110. And so technically, you should be doing like for like is what it's trying to tell you. And so that's what's there. And so we looked at the land use plan. We didn't feel like we wanted to go down the industrial route because we felt like, you know, the plan called for across the street to be medium density and even high density as you go further along freeway on Kitiat. And so we figured we'd put in the medium density request, but we got to the meeting and it wasn't what the citizens wanted. So we listened and we reduced the density down to what we could make happen so we could still go forward with our project to the R18. And that's why we're at where we're at.
Right. We've got a question right here.
Yeah, just circle back a little bit. I realize, you know, talking about the lift station and all that and how that'll solve the septic tank problems, but just circling back to Ben's comment on all the tile lines that are in there, and you guys said that there have been studies on that.
There are
These tile
studies.
lines have been in 100 years.
Yes.
And so can we access these studies and see what they say?
NRCS has that study.
Because-
They're the ones that put it, they're the ones that did it several years ago.
Right now, these folks are having trouble because of the groundwater with just their limited amount of
Right.
lots they have now on septic tanks. Just because you put in a lift station doesn't mean you're not going to still have groundwater issues getting in people's basements. So you put 100 homes on that amount of land these guys have, you're now taking out many, many tile lines. You're not going to dig a
No,
house.
we're not taking them out. They're
You're
gonna
not gonna
reroute
dig a
them.
hole without taking out a tile line.
But
Oh.
you gotta remember, we gotta catch all the water. They have to put in retention ponds for everything that comes off their subdivision into them retention ponds.
And the effort,
Back up.
the whole idea of the study was to identify them so we know where they're at, so we can deal with them if we have to realign or readjust some of those lines. So that's that was the whole idea of the study way back
We
when.
can't even dump into them with our own water.
Yeah, because I mean, Ben's been here, put in to these tile lines
Yeah.
back when he was a young man, and he knows what happens when they get.
Well, we all do. This whole area is like that.
Yeah.
Just want to circle back on that and make sure we understand that what could happen when you put these in, because it's happening right now with those people that.
We'll address that. I can address that even tomorrow. We can get that study and because I know they have a publication that has all of that in it.
Right. So
So,
they're going to do something, the developer, to catch all that water that would be normal groundwater then?
Yeah.
Have to catch
I just wanted.
that
to
would be
circle back on
that would be part of that development plan that would be part of the requirement for them to come in and develop, would be to deal with that.
It just seems like, less dense housing, would be less problems when it comes to the groundwater and such, so. And then like Kelly said, just to keep that same rural country feel.
Right.
I don't know that townhomes really fit in that area out there but.
Okay. Thank you. Your name is?
Brett Penny.
Brett, okay.
The Brett Payne.
Yeah.
The one and only.
Okay,
Tired everybody out.
Rhodey, do you have anything else to share with the public?
Yeah, I guess, do you want to say anything about that?
I mean, you guys probably haven't seen me too much, but, I've been involved in this project, and I talked to Brett on the last town hall. I quoted in the newspaper, it's kind of nice. But at the end of the day, I think, I'm all with you guys, right? I think you have to have the proper infrastructure, and that's exactly what's required of us. Right? So you understand, whatever goes in there, this doesn't happen overnight. This happens for several years. It gets put in, it's phased in, right? But if we have to widen the roads, because we have to widen the roads, if we don't do anything, those roads never get widened. If no one ever develops the property, the sidewalks never get put in, right? So somebody has to do that. If we do it, or someone else is going to do it, the only way we get a sidewalk in, or a road that gets widened, or a business that comes in, someone has to pay for that, right? And what we're trying to do is say, we don't want to burden you as the taxpayer to pay for that. We're actually paying for that. All the infrastructure is required in our development agreement for us to do that. And not just that, I think the big thing with the regional lift station that I want to put in, that regional lift station is not just taking count just to those homes that are going in. We actually allow the city to have that regional lift station, and they can actually now have control over all the future development that comes in. So if a developer comes in and says, hey, I wanna have certain type of zoning, because I need to put different type of sewer in, the city can be like, we don't need to have anyone pay for that infrastructure, we already have that in your back pocket. So this isn't just for these homes, it actually opens up the whole area for now the city to control what goes in there. So when we're going back to, hey, should we put industrial in, should we put multifamily in, or whatever the case may be, this actually allows the city, with your guys' input, to actually put what goes in there. When it's unzoned, you don't have, if it was in the county before, you had no say on how it looks, how it feels. The city's trying to say, if we can bring it in, we can actually control how it looks, how it feels, how it meets the needs of the citizens. That's what we're trying to do. We want to work with the citizens. I mean, let's just be real. I don't want to put an industrial park there. But if we're forced to do that, then I guess that's what it is. But that's not what we want. We'd rather put a nice community with a park and trails, nice amenities, to get that Target or to get those clothing stores in. No one's coming in if there's no keys, right? And no one's going to have the sidewalks, the roads get put in if there's nobody to pay for it. So that's what we're trying to say is, hey, we want to work with you guys to get the proper development, but that development is going to take time. But it will get in, and it has to be put in because the state has certain codes, the city has certain codes. We have to follow everything to do that. We have to catch all the groundwater, right? We have to build a retention pond. So all of these things, it's not just flippantly, we want to come in, because guess what? We have to pay for those things. Last thing we want is to come in and pay a massive amount of money to have a terrible project and to have a terrible community. And I think that's what we're trying to do. If we really just cared about just the almighty dollar, we would not have changed our zoning. We had a pre-annexation agreement, and I hope everyone understands this, that we literally dropped, hundreds of units because of what we heard from you. We could have said, nope, we're holding to and we're gonna hold it tight, but that's what we did. But it was funny, that was the first town hall meeting that I came to with the planning commission, and there was not one person that got up that said, thank you for dropping it to RM, from RM8 to R8. Not one of them.
If we said
thanks, can we have a meeting?
Well, no, I guess what I'm saying is we made a concession, right? We heard you, we made a huge concession.
Well, the concession is on future, like, you want future business, right?
Future business.
Yeah. You don't want to be a single development, right?
What do you mean, not a single?
What I mean is, man, I've been sitting here griping about
It's the developers asking the people what we want instead of the people asking the developers what they want.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
that's what you
I
did.
understand the thank you and the gratitude for being so benevolent, but come on, man. We've been in here for how many hours? We've already beat this dead horse. They understand what the community wants. Let's just be done with it. Thank you for dropping it.
That is awesome.
I
agree.
I mean,
That is
it's
a big
great.
deal. Thank you.
It's great, but
At the end
why are
of
we
the day,
rehashing
developers
this?
still looking to make money.
yeah, you've got to make money or else you wouldn't be doing
Well,
it.
sure, don't you go to work to make money?
Hell yeah, I do.
Yeah, we do, we all do that. But at the
Yeah.
same time, we take pride in what we do as well. We wanna leave a good product.
And if it is a good working relationship
Sure.
with the community, the council, and the developers, then you get future business,
100%.
they get reelected, they get happy, and everything works.
Right.
But it's the trio, it's not you and us as the peasants.
Who said we wants to be reelected?
Yeah, no kidding.
So let's just say, I mean,
That's an
there's all great
insult.
information, it's late, my patience is gone. So if we don't end the meeting, I'm leaving regardless, so.
Mayor was about to burst, or else he'd have ended.
Well,
Excuse me, gentleman just talking, who are you and how do you fit in this?
My name's Michael Ebenhouse, I'm part owner with Brett. Help me landhold.
Okay,
See, that's the first we've even heard.
yeah, first we've ever seen you.
Yeah, I've been here multiple.
but just so you guys know, we do hear your voices, every one of us, and we appreciate you coming tonight and talking. Thank you so much. Okay, really. And we do listen.
Want to adjourn
I
it?
just have to sit there and listen.
Thank you.
Want to adjourn it?
The mayor's out.
You need to tell the mayor, you're the good luck
You
charm
got lower
that's mayor
density,
for-
now the prices all went up.
Hey, can we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion that we adjourn this meeting.
I second it.
Okay, we've had a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye,
We
okay.
don't need the mayor, do we?
Yeah, likewise, thank you.
I kept looking at you, thinking,